Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 7 of The Wheel of Time. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, let's start off with everything with Siuan and Moiraine. We get a look into their past 20 years ago. They were, making plans about everything. This is before, trying to balance their responsibilities to the White Tower, but also it's like, right, once we've done our obligations, once we set the certain king or queen we need to set up in position, we'll retire and just kind of live our lives. And this episode really sadly breaks down the complications. So many things have gotten in the way of that. Obviously, the dragon being reborn complicated that, because one of the Aes Sedai, she had a vision. I mean, not even a vision. It happened simultaneously. She died at the same moment that Rand's mom died, giving birth to him. So just as the dragon reborn is breathing his first breaths into this world, she's breathing her last along with Rand's mom. And so that kind of changed everything. And this is where Moiraine and Siuan had to make a promise that they would never tell anyone else about it, because everyone knows how the dragon is viewed, because the previous dragon broke the world. It's like the dragon could be good or evil, and we don't know how the dragon will play. We know the dragon will play a pivotal role in the last battle, but we don't know how things will play out with this dragon. Once again, the previous one broke the world and everything. So as we know, this was their mission. This was something that only they would handle. It seems like, generally speaking, I don't even know if... Well, the thing I'm curious about is, I'm assuming Liandrin knows about the dragon because, well, she's working with the dark. She's working with the dark one. She's working with Ishmael and them, so she has to know about Rand. Not unless it's that evil. I mean, not even just evil. The good guys do it as well. The compartmentalization of, well, for a very, very long time, for most of the show and most of these past 20 years, the only ones who've known that the dragon reborn was alive is because that's Moiraine's secret mission. It was no one else's mission to know about. So obviously her and Lan are the only one, and obviously the core group, had knew, because, hey, one of them is the dragon and everything. So it is this top kept secret. So I'm wondering if the same thing is applicable on the dark side, where even Liandrin wasn't even aware about, doesn't know that Rand is or maybe she always knew. It's hard to say what Liandrin knows, like what Ishmael feels it's necessary for her to know, because it could be a thing of, I'm telling you to do this and that just because you're a part to play and all this, but I don't fill you in on everything, because you don't need to know everything. You just need to follow orders and do what we tell you to do to get what you want in the end. So, which is kind of interesting to see what that is, considering, well, her reasoning for doing all this, Lanfear killed her son last episode, so her motivation, but I mean, it doesn't change the fact is she's made her oath, she's bound to it. It's like, you as an Aes Sedai could break your oaths, but I guess it's like, when you're bound to the Dark One like this, it's like, there's no breaking it. Like, even if you try to, you're bound to it, and you have to follow through regardless, so. But either way, kind of staying on that subject, Rand has to meet with Siuan because she wants to meet the Dragon Reborn herself, because it's like, right, we know what role you're going to play in all this. So Rand's supposed to be in front of her, telling her truthfully everything. So it's like, right, he's avoided channeling as much as possible. But for her, it's like, you trying not to channel, it's like almost like trying to not breathe there. It's just a natural, you won't be able to stop it. Yes, you've even admitted that you've channeled unintentionally, but it's just a nature of things. She even went as far as saying, like, yeah, this would have been so much easier if you were a woman. It's like, it would have been. I mean, I wonder, have any of the previous dragons ever been, you'd assume so, right? Because obviously the previous dragon was male, I think. I mean, because Lanfear calls, because she says he, so Lanfear calls him Luz. So, but I mean, it makes sense, because with the man, you have to worry about the power driving them insane. So, and that was a conversation Rand had with Lan, because it's like, Lan's like, you have a responsibility to not only the people you love, but the greater world. Is that why you made this? For him, it's like, I thought, because of my fear of being responsible for killing the people I care about, because every man gets driven insane by this power, that I didn't want to put anyone I cared about in danger. To be fair, there was no escaping that, because every one of your friends, the people who matter most to you in this world, are all pivotal parts of the Dark One's plan for you. So they each play their own role. Perrin, Egwene, Nynaeve, and Matt all serve a purpose in the grand scheme of all of this. So it's kind of a moot point in this time, especially because now you're off to try and save Gwen from, was it Foam is where she's at. So, but the Siuan talks about what the plan was. The White Tower's plan was never to steal him, as in like cut off his power from the source, like they have, like they did Logain. It was the plan was always to basically cage him. Like, you're our weapon to bring out only when we need you to. You were never going to be like our general. We're going to have someone else lead the charge. I'm curious who would have been their general to lead the charge. Would she have been the one? And it's like, right, you're my weapon to wheel out and use when we need it, because we don't know which side of the coin you're going to be. Are you going to be this world's savior? Are you going to fix everything? Or are you going to help continue to destroy everything like the previous dragon did? So, I mean, the sad thing is she sees, even if Rand had better control of his powers, it's still a situation, because that just solidified it for her even more that we can't go along with Moraine's plan. It's like, you had all this time. For one, you didn't tell me that you got stealed. We had been exchanging letters for 6 months. No point did you bring that up, which I'm like, understandable why she wouldn't bring it up as a sore spot. Obviously, it would be a sore spot for any Aes Sedai, but, especially talking to the woman you love about something that's so personal like that. I mean, it's like, if you're not going to talk to her about it, you didn't talk to Lan about it, your warder, so you should talk to the woman you love about it. But it's like, it's complicated, because I guess Moraine, by talking about it, it makes it that much more real. I already have to live with it every day. I don't want to have to add more to it. It just makes it even more real and harder to bear when I have to talk about it. And I guess maybe she was also afraid that if she told Swan the truth, it's like, oh, you would remove me from my mission, and this mission is so important. But for Swan, it's like, yes, this mission is so important, so we can't go about it your way anymore. We're going to lock him up. We're going to make sure, study him so that he can get more powerful, but only for the purposes of, hey, coming out of the cage, channeling, and only coming out for the final battle, for the last battle. So that is sad, because you are using, because he's no longer Rand, he's the Dragon Reborn. He's a tool. He's a mean, you remove any form of him being human at that point. He's just a weapon to be used, And who cares about your feelings, because this is bigger than you. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than Moraine. No matter what our feelings are, you are a weapon, a tool to be used. So, locks him up. And obviously, Lan, agreed with all of this, only because it's like, right, if you won't let me by your side during this, Moraine, I thought at the very least you would listen to her. Maybe she could, because you cannot do this on your own. Because Moraine and her have had to carry this, and Siuan's had to carry her weight, sure, but it has mainly been entirely on Moraine, and now it's like, right, you don't have to shoulder that alone anymore, and I think that's kind of a hard thing for her to deal with. I mean, she's had to shoulder this for 20 years. That's a lot. It's very, and I think that plays into the isolation of it all. And Moraine has always been the isolating person. I mean, it's even that thing we saw at the beginning of her and Siuan together, her smiling. It's like, you never get to see Moraine really like that. I mean, especially nowadays, but such a genuine, big, toothy smile. You just get to see all the teeth, just how happy she is, with planning their future together. And obviously that kind of went down the drain, because this is too important. This is the fate of everything. So the only way they were going to get out of this situation is Rand asks Lanfear for a favor. So Lanfear goes on a spree in town, drawing all of the Aes Sedai away, and luckily Varen's there to help them, but so is Alana too, because it's like, right, we're all in this together. Hope this kid is worth it. When all that they're sacrificing and all that they're going against their mother. They're going behind her back. So it all works out in that end. I'm assuming, I'm sure Moraine doesn't know it now about Liandrin, but I'm assuming Alana's going to tiptoe in that direction, because we know Varen it already knows because of Yasuka, like they figured it out together, like, oh, there's a dark Aja amongst us, and we know it's Leandrin, but I'm like, beyond that, we don't know if there's any others. Maybe there are, but she's the only one we're focusing on right now, which, other dark friends we'll get to in a second, but Alana was like, one of her warders was like, yeah, but notice, where did the Leandrin go? And Alana had this look on her face like, yeah, where did she go? So maybe Alana's going to be one tiptoeing, especially if her and Varen talk about like, yeah, like, has there been anyone, because Varen was already kind of like suspicious of Leandrin during that episode, like 2 episodes ago. And I'm like, I'm sure a lot of that's going to like pique both of their interests. If they're not already fully suspecting her, they're tiptoe. Like, I think Varen probably suspects Leandrin a lot more, but I think she'll probably like tiptoe Alana towards believing that as well. So we'll see. And kind of in that same vein, an important conversation to have too is that Lan went in to visit Logang, and I was like, why would you go to see him? And it was about Moraine, and the way he was talking about it, it's like, oh, she hasn't been fully cut off from the source. Basically, her powers, her connection is being like shielded, just like what they're doing to Rand. That apparently the Forsaken can do that as well. I don't know if that's a power specific just to Ishmael, or is that like something all of the Forsaken can do. But yeah, her connection, because Lan did ask a really interesting question, because he was like, right, did you ever have thoughts of harming yourself? And she's like, what? No. He's like, I looked into the records. The only time it's never turned out that way is 2 instances. I'm like, Jesus. So every other time an Aes Sedai's ever been stealed and cut off from the source, they hurt themselves. And it was like, permanently, without using those words, obviously, for YouTube reasons. But it's like interesting. And I'm curious, who are those 2 cases where it didn't happen? Like, I'm sure it probably happens a lot for the men that get stealed as well, I mean, Logain manages to, but they probably keep an eye on him. It's probably like a watch to make sure he doesn't have what it takes. That's what I'm assuming. That's what Moraine was kind of promising him. I interpreted it as like they didn't outright say it, but it felt like it was like I don't think it's going to be like, oh, I'll connect you back to the source, because I don't think that's possible. I think it's more like you don't have to, I'll like give you the means to take care of yourself. That way you don't have to live, with like that empty feeling anymore. Because even Rand was feeling it by being shielded. It's like, oh, and Moraine's like, yeah, it's like everything that you are is gone, which she would know that feeling better than anyone. And they were in the exact same boat without even realizing it. So Rand was able to sever the shield around Moraine, and now she can channel again. And I even love that line from Lan being like, I'm sorry it took me so long to do my duty. Because it's like, right, because he kept, I was wondering why he had asked that question previously. I thought that was just him. But it's like, why now out of any time? I mean, because he's probably like was able to research it a lot more now, but because he probably never really had a reason to research that stuff beforehand. But considering her situation, because he'd even said like, right, only 2 women have ever been in her circumstances who didn't ever, go to, harming themselves. But so for him, I think it's a situation of there's certain things about Moraine's circumstances that never fit statistically with like what everyone else's experiences were that were on record. So he knew something was off. That's why he went to see Logain about it. It's like, what do you see? Because I guess it's, as a false dragon, he's able to like tap, like because he could still see it even though like he's been cut off. Like they are kind of a special case, because I'm like, I think it's so interesting, because I'm like, so I guess the dragons have a very special connection with the source. But I'm like, why didn't anyone else see it? Like, why didn't Suwan be able to see, like, oh, I guess you had to actively be looking at it. But I guess Logain is just like, it's second nature to him. So he was able to kind of see it, even without really being able to tap in. Like, his eyes are kind of adjusted to it. It's like, it's kind of residuals that are there. So Lan was kind of promising, like, oh, I'll get you out of here. But he's like, no, you think I'm stupid? The people you killed last season, you're not getting out of this. Like, you're going to rot in here. Basically, the White Tower is going to take you. He's like, there's some brown Aja, who are going to love, poking and prodding you. So it's like, yeah, no more your cushy position at a place that, I mean, it's not like it's cushy, but, it's going to be a lot worse for him going forward because Moraine is the only reason why he's in this facility and not in the tower like he would be. So, being poked and prodded like more test subject than human. But either way, Swan showed up to stop the group as they were about to leave. I thought Rand was going to have his moment of like, right, because Lan had made that whole point of like, right, as something that kind of part of just being a man is kind of standing on your feet and not letting anyone take you off your feet. Rand kind of got taken off his feet twice this episode, so I thought it was going to be his moment to kind of like break free of the shielding and show like, yo, I've got more control of it. To be fair, it's like he's taking baby steps towards it because he's been too afraid to really tap into it. So, but Suan like crossed the line with Moraine and forced her. It's like, I command you. And it's like, don't do that. It's like you broke kind of a thing between us because it was supposed to be a thing of you were never supposed to use your authority over me like that. It's a violation where it's like we're lovers, but you're also like mother to the Aes Sedai and you have so much control over them. There's a bond between them that you can force my hand. I'm asking you not to do this and you forced me to. It destroys whatever was there. It is sad that, that happily ever after went down this route. They had already spent so much time apart, and obviously she had to like kick Moraine out of the tower last season just to kind of like, hey, so she can go on her mission and yada 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 without, raising any suspicion. And now it's like this happened. Lanfear shows up and she doesn't steal Swan, but she does like badly injure her. She's like, right, a broken Emerald is better than a dead one. So she is injured. So I don't know if it's, God was like, I don't know if you like fractured any of her power doing what you did, but it's like effortlessly, like kind of like it's like, yeah, power like alone. Like, yes, she has a lot of power, but probably, I guess even probably with other Aes Sedai by herself, like linking together, probably still have a hard time taking on Lanfear by herself. I mean, it's not like the Forsaken are fully all-powerful, because even Lan was like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I thought it was weird, like, even as powerful as the Forsaken are, for them to be able to steal someone takes a lot. I mean, it takes multiple Aes Sedai just to steal, like, someone like Logain, so it's like, of course, would the Forsaken really be able to do it? It's like, I guess it's like, it's meant to make you, like, you would never question that because your disconnection from the source, you just assume, like, oh, I've been stealed. It never crossed your mind, like, oh, they just shielded me from it. It's this connection still strong. It's just being blocked right now. It's not completely severed. But Lanfear leads Lan, Rand, and Moraine. It's like, right, you want me to do something for you, so I'm doing it. Can we find out why they want him to go to Falm? Because it's part of his destiny. He's supposed to announce himself to the world at Falm. I am the Dragon Reborn. And then they're also going to kill him. That's the plan. I guess that's why they want him and Matt to be together so Matt could kill him. Because I thought the point was, oh, we need Rand on our side. The last dragon broke the world, so we would, like, it still could be that, like, everything's meant to push Rand and break him until he joins their side. I mean, Lanfear already has her own place in all of this. Like, what she wants from Rand is interesting because she's even like, oh yeah, you remind me so, you become more and more like Luz every time I see you. So, and because she had already made it clear to Ishmael, like, oh, I will eventually betray you because I have my reasonings for doing what I'm doing. So she won't be too keen on Rand dying, but I guess the point is to break the world. It's like, hey, here's your big hope. And we're going to smash and destroy it in front of everyone's eyes. It's like, oh, you're announced to the world. The world knows the Dragon Reborn's here. He's supposed to set things right. And Ishmael is going to have Matt kill him. And that's going to be like, and yeah, who knows when the next Dragon Reborn is going to come about. Not at all, especially if Ishmael gets what he wants. But let me finish up where I am with Swan and Moraine. It is kind of sad that cut back and forth between her walking away from Swan and Moraine, thinking about her and Swan all those years ago, their plans for the future, and there's no repairing that. Like, that was all undone and destroyed in like a couple minutes from the combination of Swan like controlling her to Moraine following her mission because this is too important. So very, very complicated stuff. But kind of going back really quickly to, circling over to the whole Ishmael situation. Lanfear brought Mat to him. As everyone's in Falm now. Well, Perrin's still on his way, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, all roads lead to Falm. It's like our group is going to be fully united for the first time since season 1, since Mat went off on his own. Like, the group has not been fully together since then, if I remember correctly. I could be mistaken. So, but Ishmael has made it clear what his plan is, why he's with the dark, because for him, it's like the wheel is a terrible thing. It's not a good thing, because it's like we're all in this cycle of, we die and then we get spun up in the wheel and spit back out in this world. So we're stuck here living it over and over and over. It's very poetic where he's like, I basically want this reincarnation thing to end. I want to be able to close my eyes and never have to worry about, I'm going to open my eyes and become someone else. Because he showed Mat, hey, here's this drink that's going to show you the 1,000 different lives you've lived, and he sees some of them, not all of them, but he sees and especially because at first he sees his mom and his mom saying right, you're just kind of as horrible as your dad. And he sees some of his previous lives. One of his lives, he unalived himself. Another one, he sees 2 other versions of himself hurting people. And even Mat has hurt people, he even now knows I'm going to end up killing Rand. So it's is this really who you are at your core? Every time you're spun back out, you're stuck in this cycle, kind of repeating the mistakes of the past, just in a new face and a new body, but the soul stays the same. That's who you are at your core, and there's no escaping it. So it is that situation of, Ishmael's proposal sounds nice to him. That's right, you get to kind of finally be free, be able to get a really good night's sleep, be able to kind of escape yourself, because once you're going this time, there's no coming back, and there's peace in that. And that's why for Ishmael, it's I'm doing terrible stuff for the greater good, because I want there to be a peacefulness that comes with the wheel. The wheel spitting people back out is bad. We're here stuck playing things over and over again. Once again, different faces, same roles that we find ourselves cast in time and time again, that the wheel, it perpetuates this never-ending cycle that we have to break free of. And it strikes a chord with Mat, because Mat has so much pain and trauma. Obviously, life hasn't been good to Mat, and now it's gotten a peek at his previous lives, and life hasn't been good to him either. And it's just let's break this cycle. So it makes it easier for Ishmael to really, really get to Mat, So once again, he made it pretty clear, Mat was always his from, the moment he was born, and I guess because, that dark nature's always been there. And so that ends up being this conversation of nature versus nurture, especially in the world where reincarnation is a thing, that you're constantly being spit back out in this reincarnation cycle of, it seems that no matter what happens, who you were previously is still who you are at your core. You still have the same soul, you're just in a different body, and that soul carries the stains, and there's no changing it, there's no escaping it. So that's going to be interesting to see how things kind of flow on that point. We have Perrin kicking it still with Avienda, and she meets up with some other IL, and it turns out, was it Julian, their leader? She's dead. And so there's this ritual they have to perform, kind of her paying back her debt, because, Julia ended up dying shielding her from a blow. And so kind of it was almost I guess it has to be a pain, it has to be almost like a blood tribute you have to give back to the person, kind of give back that debt you owe them. So now Perrin is with her and the other 2 ILs, and they're going to Falm, where Nynaeve and Elaine are doing their thing. They meet up with Loial, so he knows, okay, I'm going to help Egwene, but now I find out, okay, good. Now knows Nynaeve is there along with Elaine, and it's okay, I'm going to try and help out whatever I can with this. So they know about the kennel, and their plan is to grab one of the people who has the people who have the the leashes, those people, like Renna's people, like the ones who control like people like Egwene. And so they end up putting one on one of them. And now it's like, right, you're going to force it because, right, the device can be only like, it has to be like, it can't be broken. It can only be healed by putting it on a woman. So it's like, right. And I love this. Like, oh, what do you think is going to happen? And Nynaeve is like, oh, I hope it hurts considering all that they do, like collaring all these other women, all these other channelers, which speaking of Renna's, they have to showcase the power of their channelers. And Renna was like, right, do not embarrass me. Or there will be a price to pay. So luckily I don't have to like worry about you doing your part because now that I have you on this leash, I can force your hand. And Egwene has to show her powers. She can't be reluctant about it. She kind of has to give it her all. She's like, yeah, I want you to because it's like, oh, I want you to show them, oh, that person was good, but I want you to shine bigger and brighter than them. And Rena's like, oh, good, Egwene. It's just like, oh God, it's like, oh, you deserve a treat. Brought her like water to like bathe her with, and Egwene kind of has to suck it up and take it because like that look she gave at the end of last episode when that Blue Aja was like, oh, you did well to hold on for as long as you did, and that look on Nynaeve's face of like, not Nynaeve, but Egwene's face like, oh, I got her, and she made that point because for her it's like the Shen-Chen's point of view is supposed to be like, right, we're supposed to. The last battle's coming. We all need to be under the umbrella. It's like, it's like we have to fall under the Selma umbrella, but it's like that doesn't excuse you from conquering and like enslaving people and making them not even humans. They are pets to you. So, once again, it's just, I think just culturally for them, they see nothing wrong with it, but it's like no one, history doesn't look kindly upon men or women who put people in chains, so. But I love that line from Egwene just being like, Renna, I will kill you. I was like, yes, you will. I cannot wait for you to put her in her place. Because she tries to make it seem like she's sympathetic, like, hey, it's okay, like, why we do what we do. And it's just like, it's the only way because the only way we can win this war is if we're under the same banner. And I'm curious, with the Dragon Reborn back into place, how will that affect? Will they all like, oh, we'll still do what we do, but we fall under the banner of the Dragon Reborn? Like, how does that fare? I'm curious, like, how that all would work out. But I cannot wait for Egwene to get free so she can kill Renna. It's like, oh, like, do what, I think I called her, I think it might have been Rayma, the Aes Sedai, the yellow Aes Sedai from last episode. How she crumpled those people like pretzels last episode. I can't wait for Egwene to do that. It's for all we know, Egwene might even go harder in the paint. She might obliterate Renna and there's nothing left but maybe obliterate the skin so there's nothing left but a bone husk. I have no idea. It's going to be interesting to see. I also completely forgot to talk about this, so I have no idea where I'm going to end up throwing this in during the review, but I completely forgot to talk about Moraine's nephew, the whole bringing up Liandrin. When she showed up at Moraine's like family home and stuff, I thought, like, is she going to try and use this against Moiraine? Kind of like Moiraine used her son against her. To some extent, but it turns out she came there to visit Moraine's nephew because it turns out he's a dark friend. He had, like, I don't know if Liandrin was the middle person for their circumstances, because who knows how long she's been working with the Dark One, or whether this is probably her first time finding out, like, oh, I'm here. I don't know, because like the moment he saw Leandra, it's almost like he knew. So she might have always been the middle person, or maybe it's just this is her job now. But she's like, yeah, you owe us because we're the reason why your family's doing as well as it is. And the fact is you're in a position to become king. Just so sad considering Moiraine had that whole point last episode about how he'd be a good king and everything. And now it turns out, oh, he's a dark friend. And now Leandrin's like, yeah, you need to kill your aunt. Also, if your mom gets suspicious, you need to kill her too, which she overheard everything. I'm curious, does Moiraine know about all of this? Because Anne handled that by herself, at least that we're aware of, trapped her son and everything, and even let the queen know what was up. But for him, it's like, yeah, like, why you think our families prospered so much is because of them. Like, if it wasn't for them, we would have fallen on such hard times. We were already struggling, but we did so much better because of that. Like, I did what I needed to do to protect my family. And I mean, that's the sad thing about it, is like, you're tempted by the darkness because, right, it goes after people who need something, like a Leandrin, Leandrin always she was meant to, I think, always kind of rub you the wrong way just because we haven't really spent a lot of time with other red Aja other than her. So she kind of seems representative of a lot of red Aja, but Leandrin might be in her own bag of like, Leandrin's Leandrin, and she's not representative of all the other red Aja, but it's probably a good likelihood that there's probably some overlap personality wise, but Leandrin's just Leandrin. So she's always kind of had like a little bit of a personality where you're like, kind of isn't the nicest person. And now you do feel bad for her considering the circumstance, but it's like, yeah, it's kind of like a cult. What does a cult do? It takes advantage of people. It finds your weaknesses and it tries to exploit them and feed off your pain and use that to kind of sway you to their side. And this is what happened in this regard. It's like, but, and Everett's son being like, that once she'll leave, she won't come back and she won't even give us a second thought. And she's like, I know that, but at the end of the day, there are two things I know about your aunt. The fact of the matter is she always knows what's right from wrong and doing the right thing no matter how hard it may seem. And so she ended up turning her own son. I mean, the thing is, doing that puts a target on her own back. And once again, Moraine never says anything on her side of things, so I can only assume she has no idea about all of that. And now Moraine's kind of left, so a lot of that's going to fall on her. So if he doesn't get dealt with, maybe like Leandrin or someone else will end up freeing him, because he's still a useful pawn, because I brought it up previously of like, you're going to want someone in these powerful positions. That's why Ishmael's working with lady, God, I'm blanking on her name now, from one of the Shan, like that lady, I'm blanking on her name now. But her, like, why he's working with her, because it's like, right, she overtakes that whole situation, kind of takes charge. You have someone powerful under your thumb. I mean, it's kind of like any conspiracy and corruption. Like, you need people that are powerful on top, kind of bent to your will. So either way, that's going to be an interesting development to see, like, how much of that gets explored at all next episode. I just don't think things are going to end well for Moraine's sister. I think she'll probably meet her end, because it's like, but the question is, will her son, or will they release him to kind of use him? I mean, it's kind of a moot point now because Moraine's free, but still doesn't mean she's not going to have a target on her back. Granted, she can channel now, so she can defend herself, plus her and Lon are a team together again, despite the complications. I think that, I mean, I don't know if that's fully resolved, but, I think for now, it's like, we got to put that on the back burner. We're a team. We're working together again with Rand. This comes first and foremost. This is a greater duty. This stands above all else right now, because this is the fate of everything. So we'll see. Not just everything's falling into place, and kind of perfect time for all the amalgamations, or just all these storylines fully converging, because it all goes down next episode, being the season finale. How this is all going to play out, how this season is going to end. It's going to be so interesting to see. I definitely don't see this ending on a happy note. I could definitely see this ending with like the plan still kind of going through. I mean, it'd be a tough thing because Egwene and Nynaeve and Perrin finding out that Rand is actually still alive, and then potentially Matt killing him. But once again, Lanfear's not going to want that. So we could easily see a situation of, before that's done, Lanfear snatches him away, and that could be a whole setup for the future. There's just so many different ways this can play out. So I'm so curious to see where the season finale takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good